Sahana Vavasu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavare. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Before we go into chapter 10, Vibhuti-Yoga of the Gita, we will have one last chance to have a description of certain words, of certain terms, because I won't be repeating them again. So you need to write this down just in case some things may be missed, because I need us to be on the same page, and the only way that's possible is by having, first of all, what the definitions mean. Otherwise, we don't want to be here for the whole session going, but what does this mean? Okay? So in chapter 7 and 9, Krishna taught us about the nature of Ishwara. And the nature of Ishwara, he said, has two natures, two aspects. Apara Prakriti and Para Prakriti. Apara Prakriti, we said, is inert, or it's matter. Okay, it's with the gunas. And Para Prakriti is consciousness. When we say consciousness, we're speaking Atma. When we say Atma, Atma means self. Also, Apara Prakriti, when we say matter, that includes all knowledge. Because all knowledge is still an object known to consciousness. Okay? So Sarva Jnanam, all knowledge, is still Apara Prakriti. And also remember, Apara Prakriti also means Maya. They're synonymous words, because Maya is three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And the three gunas are nothing but matter, nothing but objects. And objects are Apara Prakriti. Therefore, when I say Apara Prakriti, I'm talking about Maya. When I say Maya, I'm talking about three gunas, which are Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. And these three gunas are what creates this entire universe as we know it. So this means, if Ishwara consists of these two natures, Apara and Para, that is the lower and the higher, and Ishwara is the Jagat Karanam. Jagat means world. When I say world, I'm talking about the known and the unknown world. Not just what you see, but also things that are in potential, yet to come. So Ishwara is the Jagat Karanam. So this whole world that we're experiencing is because of Ishwara being a Jagat Karanam. So if Ishwara consists of two natures, then this entire world is Apara Prakriti and Para Prakriti. Matter and consciousness always together. So now, first question. We often say that things are inert. Quiz question. Are things really inert? Rock. Is a rock really inert? Tell me why.
Changes.
Okay. Okay, any more? That's good. That's started. What else can we say that the rock is not actually inert?
Apara is created by para.
Good. Okay. So rock is made up of what? Different molecules, different atoms, okay, different components. And those components are intelligently put together by what? Ishwara. And the truth of Ishwara is Nirgunam, Brahman. In other words, wherever there is knowledge, because of that knowledge which puts components together, you cannot say that anything in this world is inert, because Apara and Para are never apart. So therefore you have to separate the words between consciousness and sentiency. The rock is not sentient, we understand that. Why is the rock not sentient? Because a rock does not have a sukshma sharira, a subtle body. We have a sukshma sharira, we have prana, a rock does not. But both the rock is pervaded or is of the nature of para prakriti, and apara prakriti, and so is the human being also of the same nature. Thus, everything in this universe is conscious. So we cannot say, oh, a rock is inert, or things are inert and we're conscious. It doesn't work like that. You need to separate consciousness from sentiency.
So would that mean a plant could be, in Vedantic terms, would be considered a sentient being because it has sensory perception? I
said that anything has a sukshma sharira, a subtle body, is qualified as sentient. Does a plant have a sukshma sharira? Yes. Does an animal have a sukshma sharira? Yes. So plants are indeed conscious and they're also sentient. You can prove this, or you can see an example with a Venus flytrap. Or they've done some experiments with plants to see how plants indeed respond to music or even to certain environments. Yeah. Okay. Now, commonalities, next point. Commonalities between para-prakriti and apara-prakriti. So this means what is the same? Both are beginningless. Both are already in their maximum state. That means you can't have more consciousness and you can't have more matter. How many times have you ever heard someone say, or maybe yourself, I am becoming more aware? Yeah? What's incorrect about that statement? I am becoming more aware. No. Consciousness cannot become more. Consciousness already is. Now, what people really mean when they say that is in reference to my ignorance being removed by my exposure to knowledge, it seems now that my mind is capturing more information. And on the basis of capturing more knowledge, it seems like I'm more aware of more knowledge. But it's still very limited knowledge, isn't it? It's still not sarvajnanam knowledge. So when a person says I'm becoming more aware, all they're saying is my mind has captured more information which I have removed by my exposure to knowledge. And on the basis of that, it seems like I'm more aware. Okay? So once again, the language is important, not to mix up these terms that just sort of go into our conversations and trick us to speak like this. So both are uncreated and both are beginningless. In other words, what is Ishwara? Ishwara is beginningless, uncreated consciousness, matter unit or unity. Consciousness matter mixture, which is beginningless and uncreated. Next point. What are the differences between para and apara prakriti? First of all, para prakriti, if you put a table, para prakriti is not subject to change. And therefore it is nirvikara. Nirvikara. Whereas apara prakriti is constantly in a state of flux, that is creation, sustenance, and destruction. This is what we call change, because change is nothing but these three put together. In other words, para prakriti is nirvikara, apara is savikara. Savikara with changes. Okay, para prakriti is free from absolutely all properties and attributes. There is nothing we can give it. We can't define it. Because to define it is to give it an attribute. Therefore, it is nirgunam, without any gunas. We already established that because of the gunas, this world is, including the descriptions we use to describe this world, is made of the gunas. Whereas apara prakriti is made up of infinite variations of attributes and properties, constantly modifying in different combinations and permutations. Thus we call saguna. Para-prakriti is satyam. That means independent ultimate reality, Brahman. Apara-prakriti is mithya, which means it is dependent on satyam for its existence. The last one, Paraprakriti, is conscious. That means it's consciousness. Chetana Tattvam. Chetana means conscious. Tattvam means reality. It is a conscious reality. Whereas Aparaprakriti is inert. Therefore, Achetana Tattvam. Now, you can see how we're only making a distinction between conscious and not conscious, whereas because they're always together, you can't really say that anything is not conscious. Understand? So that's how we first split, and then you understand, well, now I know, now I can bring them together, and thus I understand everything is alive. So when we say Ishwara, we're talking about a mixture or a combination of changeless and changing. We're talking about dependent and independent. We're talking about attributeless and attributeful. We're talking about conscious and inert when we say Ishwara. Now, next point. Ishwara as Jagat Karanam, as the creator, as the manifester, as the cause of the universe. So Ishwara as the Jagat Karanam has 3 stages. It's important to know these 3 stages so that we don't get confused when people talk about different things. You need to know, put things in the right place. Otherwise, if you hear some guru talking about stage 1 and you're at stage 3, what's going to happen? There's going to be confusion. And you're going to say, well, you know, this is not my understanding, but they're talking stage 1. So we need to know exactly what is stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Stage 1 of understanding Ishwara. So this is what we all go through when we begin our journey. Ishwara is a creator. Just like a carpenter creates pieces of furniture, or a goldsmith creates ornaments. Okay, so this means the creator is apart from creation. So this means 2. This means God is perfect, Ishwara is perfect, and the world is not perfect. Ishwara is pure, and the world is impure. So this leads to certain sadhanas to always be glorifying Lord and to dismiss the world, which is fine because it's all leading to stage 2. So in stage 1, we're still at stage 1, Ishwara equals Nimitta Karanam. Nimitta Karanam means intelligent, efficient cause. In other words, just like a goldsmith is an intelligent cause of the ornaments. The carpenter is the Nimitta Karanam of the things which the carpenter creates. So in other words, stage 1 is where the Shishya or the Bhakta assumes that Ishwara is some intelligent person, some intelligent Purusha at some location, at some place. God's there, we're here. Stage 1. Okay, now stage 2. After having participated in stage 1 for some years or maybe lifetimes, the person's mind will become a little bit more mature. And they will start to question their beliefs, which are from stage 1. And the question will be regarding 2 primary doubts. First doubt will be, how can Lord be located? And if he is located, where exactly is he? So, how can an infinite Lord be located at some place? That's the first doubt. And the second doubt is, well, where does Lord get his materials from? Like, where does he get the matter from? So now the student starts to question the logic of thinking that Lord is over there. So if Lord's getting materials, then obviously there has to be another Lord, the material provider. So now inconsistencies start to form. So in this stage, Ishwara is no longer the creator, but the universe or the Jagat is a manifestation of Ishwara. In other words, Ishwara manifests as the universe. See the difference? Stage 1. Ishvara creates the universe. Now, Ishvara manifests as the universe. What do I mean by this? For example, suppose we have a chopping board made out of wood, a table made out of wood, a pencil made out of wood, a desk made out of wood. So in other words, the wood itself, the content of all of these forms manifests as the forms. In other words, they're not apart. In other words, wherever there is wood, that's exactly where there is form. So thus, stage 2 is what we call Vishwaroopa Bhakti. In other words, I'm now worshipping Lord as everything in the universe because He is the one which manifests as everything that I experience. He is in my spouse, He is in my hands, He is in the very pencil that I'm writing, He is in the birds, He is in all people that I see, He is in every emotion that I experience. There is no place where He is not. This is stage 2. Another example is, you've seen people worship the sun. There's a meaning for this. So now, the sun is no longer seen as God's creation. This was stage 1. What is the sun now? The sun is a manifestation of Ishvara. And what does this cause? Bhakti. That's why some people worship the sun. And also the sun is a deity, a presiding deity for vision, internal vision. So those who worship the sun usually have very clear minds. They can purify their minds. Just like the moon, the Chandraha, is a presiding deity of emotions. That's why when it's full moon, what happens to our emotions? Yeah, they change, right? So in other words, and what happens to the sun? If you look at the sun, you experience clarity. Therefore, the sun is a presiding deity of intelligence, of brightness, of clarity. Thus, those who worship the sun benefit greatly because it actually does provide genuine benefits. And those who worship the moon or meditate upon the moon are the ones who are most likely more emotional types. So thus, they are looking for emotional stability by meditating upon the moon. Okay? The point is, both of them are manifestations of Ishvara. So now one should understand, it's not just, oh, why are you praying to a bunch of atoms? They're not atoms. It is actually a manifestation of Lord, whose nature is para and apara prakriti, which are never separate. That's stage 2. Some of the benefits of stage 2 is, or what should happen is, the world is divine. Before it wasn't divine, now the world is divine. So a lot of bhakti starts to develop in stage 2. Because you open your eyes, where is Lord not? Tell me. So this means a genuine behavioral change should be a sort of cheerful predisposition, a cheerful devotion towards everything. Right? Now things are not so meaningless. They're not just rubbish or trash or something to put aside. Everything is a manifestation of Lord. Stage 2 is between chapter 7 to 12 of the Gita. That's where we are in now. We are in stage 2, just so you know. Now, stage 3. This is the last stage that will be between chapter 13 and 18. In stage 1, Ishvara created the world. Stage 2, Ishvara manifests as the world. Stage 3, Ishvara neither creates, neither manifests. Again, see how we cancel out every stage? So first stage, Ishvara created the world. Second stage, no, Ishvara does not create the world. Ishvara manifests as the world. Stage 3, no, Ishvara doesn't create the world, doesn't manifest as the world, but appears as the world. Why? Because to say that it creates or manifests as the world means what? Change. The Adhisthana, the substratum, Brahman, is nirgunam, nirvikara. In other words, the pot, suppose the pot is the world, This whole world is made out of different forms. One of the forms is called a pot. Now the entire pot is pervaded, or the truth of this pot is the clay alone. In other words, the clay is not contaminated, it is not sullied by the potness. So from the standpoint of forms, we give this name like Lloyd, right? Or we give this name like a car, or we give this name like Dharma or Adharma, or any name we want to give from the standpoint of form. But the content of every form, the truth of every form, including the truth of every smile and every opposite of smile, is consciousness alone. In other words, this world is only an appearance of the one truth, which is Brahman, which is awareness. There is nothing but consciousness, and that is all there is to this entire creation. Appearing how? Through Maya Shakti, which we will speak about soon. Furthermore, stage 3, to appreciate the world as unreal or as an appearance requires actually a lot of intellectual maturity. Because if there is no maturity, then the person will take this idea and they will take it literally as an intellectual fact. And they will carry it around and say, well, the world is pervaded by the one same content, and that content I am, but there's no depth to that statement. So this is a maturity, a growing maturity. Now, getting back to chapter 10, Krishna is now going to point out in chapter 10 that no world is apart from me. Whenever I say me from today, it will always point to Ishwara. So Krishna says, all of the glories in this world, all of the beauty that we appreciate, that is worth living, does not belong to you at all. Nothing here is yours. You have not accomplished anything. You have not lost nor gained anything. And whatever you think that you have ever gotten, it belongs to me alone. Because I am the truth of this universe. So that's the first point he's going to say. In other words, even the jiva, the person, the body-mind who gets something, is made up of para and apara prakriti. In other words, the jiva's accomplishments entirely depend on the 5 elements or matter. So therefore, we did not create the matter or the 5 elements. Therefore, we cannot take ownership of anything that we have. This is a very important point because it's going to remove, sooner or later, if it's well ascertained, any inferiority or superiority complexes. They always come out of what? A sense of pride for having accomplished something by myself. And in reality, so many variables took place to actually make something possible, thus to me to claim and say, yes, I won. For example, just to get to the work, right? You know, the road had to be well prepared. So there's a worker who maintained that road, thus I only arrived to work because of the safe road. So many variables that are helping us to get what we need. And also, jealousy should go away, or any kind of, well, that's also included in the complexes, isn't it? See, before we say, well, you know, they're bright or they're super at what they do, but I'm not. So this is because I see them as apart from myself. Whereas now, if I understand that all glories, including mine and yours and everyone's, belongs to Ishwara alone, and the truth of Ishwara is one and the same for all. That means there's one self pervading all jivas, then what is there to take ownership of? What is there to look up or down upon someone? Because it is not theirs, it is not mine, nothing here is ours. Okay, that's the first benefit. Now we will talk more about benefits. For now, we will start chapter 10 intro, a little bit more. And before we start the intro, I'm going to give a quick timeline of all of the chapters starting with chapter 1. Very quick timeline. So you can connect the dots, where we are going, and where we were. Okay. Chapter 1 to 6 talks about Tvam. So if you take the Mahavakya, Tat Tvamasi, that you. So what is the definition of you? So chapter 1 to 6 reveals the definition of you. How so? Okay. Chapter 1. Arjuna was in sorrow. That's how it all starts. A person is in sorrow, right? This is all a common condition that all jivas share at one point or another. Chapter 2. After sorrow, what do? We look for a solution. That's the commonality for all people. In other words, in chapter 2, Arjuna finds a teacher called Krishna and surrenders to Krishna as the teacher. Krishna represents Ishwara. Because Arjuna needed a solution and he didn't know what to do. Therefore, he sought refuge in Krishna. And Krishna, what does he teach? Atma Svarupa. Right from chapter 2, the highest knowledge is revealed. Atma Svarupa. Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is a lifelong practice because it has so many aspects to it. The main aspect to Karma Yoga goes like this. Apply the right aptitude with the right attitude. Now, what is aptitude? Your inherent skill. What are you inherently good at? What do you find natural, easy, that others find hard? What is it that you flow with? What is it that you get along with? What is it that you enjoy and you would not be doing anything other than what you're doing? How do you know what your aptitude is? The answer is through the composition of the guna. What do we say right from the beginning? The universe is para and apara prakriti. What is apara prakriti? Made up of 3 gunas. Thus, every single jiva is a mixture of these 3 gunas. Accountants, for example, have more sattva. Sports people have more rajas. So now, suppose an accountant who is highly sattvic starts to do motocross racing. Is that going to work for the accountant? It will, however, it's going to be a very mediocre job because his or her composition is not designed for rajasic activities. Whereas if a highly dynamic person, let's say someone who likes to be out there, a politician, and they try to be a philosopher, they will miserably fail because their guna composition is dominantly rajasic and a philosopher's composition is sattvic. Thus, what I say, aptitude has to be exactly matching according to your guna composition. If it's not, then the job will be frustrating. The person will think about changing or doing something else. And even if they do it good, there will be constant tension while performing that job. Second is, besides aptitude, right attitude. What is right attitude? I'm only ever working here for the truth of this world, Jagat Karanam, which is Ishwara. Therefore, if I think I'm working for my kids or my spouse or my boss, that's fine. That's a Vyavaharika world. That is true. But the truth of the entire world is Ishwara. Thus, who am I and what is the truth of Ishwara? Brahman. And are you apart from Brahman? No. Thus, who are you ever working for here? Yourself. Therefore, the right attitude is, I'm only ever working for Ishwara. This has to be kept in mind. Otherwise, all actions, even with the right aptitude, will go to waste. Therefore, Karma Yoga equals right aptitude plus right attitude. If you can find these two, life will be magnificent. So this is the secret to life, the secret to consistent ease, consistent flow is to, number one, stay with that which you're inherently natural with. You find it easy, and while doing it, attitude of devotion to Bhagavan. chapter 4, Krishna said that Atma is akarta. Akarta means not a doer. The doer belongs to the cause-effect relationship, the laws of karma, which is apara prakriti, while Atma is awareness in whose presence this world is created, sustained, and destroyed. Therefore, Atma is not a doer. So here, Arjuna realizes that the doer is anatma, which is the body, mind, intellect, mithya, whereas I am satyam. Chapter 5, we spoke about Jiva's true renunciation. What is true renunciation? Chapter 6, contemplating on the contemplator. Instead of now contemplating on things that are out there, where is the contemplation? On that one who is contemplating. Therefore, the attention goes to the very person who is contemplating about contemplation. So therefore, contemplating about the very person who is contemplating. Chapter 7 to 12, so that was chapter 1 to 6. Now 7 to 12. This is the tat part, tat tvamasi, that. What is that referring to? This is referring to the nature of Ishwara and the glories of Ishwara. So chapter 7 to 12, chapter 10 is exclusively all about glories of Ishwara. In other words, Bhagavan is to be contemplated, to be meditated upon, to be recognized in and through all our activities, all of our transactions with the world, in all things. Why? Because Bhagavan alone is the truth of the universe. In other words, the only Purusha here that is truly famous and that is truly beautiful is Bhagavan. You don't have a beautiful wife or a beautiful husband, by the way. Empirically, yes, there is beauty, but you have to understand that beauty only belongs to Bhagavan. That's what I mean. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuya Eva Mahabaho Shrnu Me Paramam Vachaha Yate Ham Priyamanaya Vakshyami Hitakamyaya.
Sri Bhagavan said, "Indeed, Arjuna, the mighty armed, for your benefit, listen again to my words revealing the limitless, which I will tell you, who is pleased by my words."
Arjuna hasn't asked any questions here, so Krishna is taking an opportunity to speak about his glories. And there is a reason for this, because Arjuna, number one, is a perfect student, you would call him. So in other words, Arjuna is willing to listen. And Krishna is saying, the reason why I'm going to repeat myself is because you're highly inquisitive. And those who are inquisitive inspire the Acharya to keep speaking. In other words, chapter 1, when Arjuna was in sorrow, what did he do? He sought help. And that's why Krishna is speaking, because Arjuna is willing to listen and seek for help. Therefore, Krishna feels compelled to continue speaking. Who is Arjuna consulting? Krishna, which symbolizes Ishwara. Therefore, who is Arjuna consulting? That one who is a creator, sustainer, and destroyer of this world. Why consult someone who is not? In other words, imagine that you are at a certain, like a puzzle, like a mind maze, right? Why try to figure it out yourself when you can just ask the creator of that maze how to get through? In other words, Arjuna goes straight to the source, through the Shastra, of course, and asks, how do I navigate this field of action? That's what we call the world, because all we do in this world is act. Bhuyaha eva shrnume vachaha. Listen to my words, to my supreme words again, because I will tell you the truth of Ishwara and I will tell you my glories. Now, why does he say supreme words? I mean, words are words. Because these words, which I will share, are pramana. Pramana means of knowledge. Means of knowledge for what? To understand what is the nature of this world, which will lead to liberation. Okay, then, yat te aham priyamanaya vakshyami hitakamyaya. Who are pleased with my words, I will tell. Obviously, there's a in the brackets. You who are pleased with my words, I will tell. Tell what? Before we speak about what, why is Arjuna pleased with Krishna's words? I mean, he was only a few hours ago despondent, right? He didn't know what to do, how to act in chapter 1. And now only a few chapters later, a few hours later, he is pleased with Krishna's words. So what does this imply? That everything's making sense so far. Arjuna is keeping track. He's coming back to the classes. In fact, in that case, it's just one little chariot. He's not really going in and out. However, because he is pleased with Krishna's words, that is why Krishna is willing to reveal this knowledge. That's how it works, the Guru Shishya Parampara. If the Shishya is not pleased, there is no teacher. So it has to be that's why we say Sahana Vavatu. Let this knowledge take place for both. Let there not be any quarreling between the teacher and the student. Hitakamyaya, for your benefit, in other words, for Arjuna's benefit, I will tell this because it is for your well-being, because the truth, your truth and my truth are one. So obviously it is for your well-being because we're not separate. And also because by gaining this knowledge, you will understand the full depth of Tattvamasi. If you don't know the full meaning, the connecting, what is that and Tvam, how is you, how am I and Ishwara, how is it the same, then this knowledge will only be partial. So for that reason, listen so that there's no errors in the equation of Tattvamasi. And how will this benefit? By recognizing the glories of Ishwara, how will this benefit you? The biggest way is pride will be removed. Now what is pride? A result of ahankara. Ahankara is that principle which causes individuality. I am separate from Ishwara. I am different from you. As long as there is pride, then the entire text fails, because there's always a person that is standing apart and claiming this knowledge as mine. So this pride has to be diminished. In fact, this pride or this ahankara is the only principle that is standing between Ishwara and the individual. That's it. There's nothing else. It's just one little component which we call ahankara, which is a bhokta and a karta, a doer and an enjoyer, because of which we think that we are, that I'm separate from you. That's it. So this has to be diminished. And it's very hard. Why? Because the ahankara is so sophisticated that it will even take pride of shastric knowledge. Even when he gains shastra, he goes, I am special. I found the shastra. Everyone else hasn't. So I'm special. I must be very lucky. So this is again pride. And how do you diminish pride? Through knowledge. In other words, I have to disassociate the I from ahankara to true self. And what's the second way to deflate or to negate ahankara? We spoke about it.
Karma Yoga.
Karma Yoga, which is not taking any ownership of anything that comes to me. All of the glories, all of the accomplishments, all the successes are not mine. Immediately give it back to the original author. Even the ability to cook a good dish, and when you get those thank yous for whatever reason, remember, it is not because of me. Because every time there's a ownership, then it reinforces the ahankara, thus reinforces my separation from the world. So that's how easy we can get tricked by taking ownership. And what does this lead to? It leads to clarity of thinking. So when ahankara goes, the person becomes very sensitive to the environment, which translates to clarity of thinking. And there is no greater human accomplishment than having clarity of thought. Now, what does clarity, quote, feel like, if you were to ask? Okay, let's do the opposite. What is lack of clarity feel like in the world? Every moment without clarity is like, say, 25 times 6. The next moment is 38 divided by 2.5. The next moment is 2,300 minus 368. So every moment is hard. Every moment has this sort of tension. I don't want to do this, but I have to do it. But what is clarity like? 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1. In other words, everything that one does with clarity is easy, is effortless. They find themselves at the right time, at the right place. They don't complain. It is clear. They know what to do, and they feel like I'm supposed to be here, and I will not be anywhere else. So that's what clarity of thinking is like. Every moment is easy. It feels natural. And lastly, the benefit, the major one is, as I said, psychological complexes go away. So the source of all psychological complexes is the fact that the ahankara is still alive. It's still trying to hold on. So even if the person says, well, you know, I feel shy, then what's being fixed? The ahankara. But the ahankara is the very problem for shyness. So in other words, one has to devote that also to Ishwara, because the shyness or the confidence or whatever it is also not mine. So this means constantly offloading to the original author, not holding anything because it doesn't belong to me. Krishna is going to speak about his glories. Why should I listen to Bhagavan speak about glories? Why should I not listen to rather a pandit or a jnani or a rishi? Why should I listen directly to Bhagavan and not a liberated person, not even a rishi?
Because even that knowledge comes from Bhagavan.
Exactly. In other words, the highest truth is Ishwara. And Ishwara is the cause of the entire universe. Therefore, everything comes after, if you want to put an after a timeline to it. So therefore, Ishwara is all knowledge. And out of all knowledge, Devas, Rishis, Maharishis, Jnanis are born. Therefore, the true source of all knowledge is Ishwara alone. Therefore, nobody is more qualified to speak about Ishwara's glories than Ishwara himself. So in the next verse, Bhagavan is going to say why I am qualified to speak about the glories. Name viduh suraganaha prabhavam namaharshayaha aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha.
The whole host of gods do not know my glory of coming into being as this world, nor do the sages, because I am the cause of all the gods and sages.
So he says, me prabhavam na viduhu. So my glories, my Shakti, my powers, or how this world came about, they do not know. Or they do not totally know. They do know partially, but not totally. Now who is this they? Suraganaha. All devas in existence. Devas are the presiding deities that coordinate and run this universe. For example, you got the Devata of the sun. We got the Devata of the one who brings a smile to someone's face. A Devata of the wind. A Devata of fire. All of these are Devatas. We're not going to get into Devatas. That's going to be Tattva Bodha. They may know my nature as Paramatma, or they may know their own nature as Paramatma, as Brahman, but they do not know my glories. They don't know all of my glories, because I am the sole supreme cause of this entire universe. Thus they do not know. For example, even Brahmaji who is the creator. So when Ishwara plays the role of creator, we call that Brahmaji. Even when Brahmaji creates this world, what does Brahmaji know about? The glories of creation. Does Brahmaji know about the glories of sustenance of Vishnu? No. Does Vishnu know about the glories of Shiva, the destroyer? No. In other words, they only know their own particular glories. They do not know all of the glories of everyone. In the same way, a jiva only knows about the glories of their own little life. They don't know about the glories of the entire universe, let alone, I don't know your glories, you don't know my glories. So, but Ishwara is that one who not only knows every one of our glories, okay, or glories which have been done through this instrument, which also belongs to Ishwara, but also all of the Devas' glories, which also belongs to Ishwara. Mahan cha asau rishihi. Even the Maharishis, the great sages, do not know my glories. Now we're talking about all of the sages that we revere. Anyone you can think of does not know my glories. Because they also are because of me alone. I am their ultimate cause. So in other words, what Krishna is saying, the Rishi or the Maharishi does know indeed that all of these mithya forms, mithya names and forms all resolve into Satyam, all resolve into Brahman. That is for sure, because that's what a liberated person understands fully. For example, the wooden desk, the wooden chair, the wooden tiles, the wooden chopping board all resolve into the one same content, because of which these forms exist. But what they do not know, all of the mithya details. I have no clue how the sun works. And even if we do find out, and you say that the sun is hydrogen and nitrogen, then I still don't know the composition, the ratio of those gases which make the sun work. In other words, all of us are limited in knowledge, and Ishwara alone is Sarva Jnanam. Why we are limited, we will talk about soon. In the same way, all of the Maharishis are limited in their knowledge. Therefore, they do not have access to all knowledge. That was the Maharishi. Now Ishwara. Ishwara also knows about his nature or own nature as Brahman, just like a Maharishi does, so that's the same. But what does Ishwara also know about? All of the Mithya Jagat details. Because Ishwara is the ultimate cause. So that's the difference, understand? Maharishi knows oneself as Paramatma, but doesn't know about Mithya details. The car breaks down, they still call the repairman to fix the spark plugs. But if that was Ishwara, no problems. You'll know which spark plug is the problem. Ishwara has all of the apara prakriti details, whereas we don't. We only know about a very small specialized area that we deal with in life, but we don't even know the depth of that area. Aham adihi hi devanam marshinam cha sarvashaha. They do not know my glories because I am the ultimate cause, including the cause of the Devas and the Maharishis. Well, suppose that a mom tells a child about the experience of giving birth. Is a child ever going to understand that? No. Why not? Who came first? The mom. In other words, the mom can do her best to describe as accurately as possible what it's like to give birth to creation, right? For creation to arise. And she can speak for days and days. But the child is only going to get partial knowledge. Why? Because we have a problem of language. Words themselves are going to limit what I hear, and also my experience, my vasanas, my samskaras are going to distort what I receive. So in that same way, there is nothing that can understand the cause better than the cause can understand itself. For this reason, effect can never understand or fully understand the cause. Clear? For that reason, Ishwara alone, in this case Krishna, is qualified to speak about his glories. So what is Bhagavan? Nimitta Karanam and Upadana Karanam. What is Upadana Karanam? Material cause. because Ishwara is nimitta karanam and upadana karanam, he himself is thus qualified to speak about nimitta karanam and upadana karanam, because everything else comes out of nimitta karanam and upadana karanam. In chapter 10, Krishna finally reveals himself outright directly and proclaims, I am Ishwara. So in other words, all of these chapters, Arjuna did not know who Krishna was. Arjuna thought he's my friend, he's very smart, right? He's a divine person, but he did not fully grasp the totality of Krishna's true identity. So finally Krishna says, I am Ishwara. Now a lot of doubts are going to come up. Krishna said, I am all knowledge and I'm going to tell you everything. I know all of the details about Mithya. Who is Krishna? A person, a body, mind, intellect. In other words, Krishna is what's called a pramata. Pramata means knower. What does pramata consist of? Ahankara, karta, and bhokta, the doer and the enjoyer. So when I say pramata, right now you're writing this down because you're a pramata of my instruction. You understand? So you are a knower. So in other words, we have how many knowers here? Okay, however many knowers. So Krishna is also a pramata in the aspect of a body-mind complex. And yet, one pramata is claiming, I am sarva jnanam, I am all knowledge. How can that be? You see the contradiction there? How can a limited person with limited words, right, with limited mind, with limited experience, say that I have all knowledge? So that's the doubt. Is that clear? So what makes Krishna special in the respect to answer Ishwara's glories better than a Maharishi or a Jnani? How are they different? What's the difference between Krishna and what's the difference between a Maharishi or a Jnani? Okay, so we have to establish this difference. Ishwara, lower nature, is apara prakriti. Remember? When I say apara, I'm talking about Maya. So apara prakriti or Maya is an upadhi for Ishwara. Now you're going to say, what is an upadhi? Upadhi means that which as though lends its existence to something else. What do I mean by this before you write down? A red dye, you put it in water. The pure water becomes red. In other words, the redness has as though lended its existence to the water. But has it actually modified the H2 and O1? No. In other words, the constituents of water remain completely the same before and after, but due to the circumstances of the red dye upadhi, it seems as though it has inherited the attributes of redness. And the redness has as though lended its attributes to the water. But it hasn't actually, because the water is still H2O. That's why we say as though, because it's not actually contaminated the water. Maya or apara prakriti is an upadhi of Ishwara. So you can now compare apara prakriti or Maya to the red dye. And Ishwara is pure consciousness. So Maya as though, now what is Maya made of? Three gunas, which create this entire world. As though lends its attributes to Ishwara. So Ishwara remains like that water, pure, uncontaminated. Now, next question. What are the features of Maya? Two attributes of Maya. First, sarva jnanam, all knowledge. That means there's no knowledge outside of total knowledge because it is the total. And the second is Maya has a Shakti power called Avarana Shakti is a concealing power made possible through Tama Guna. Now, Avarana Shakti does not apply to Ishwara. However, from the aspect of the Jiva, Avarana Shakti does what? Makes Jivas limited in knowledge. Does anyone here know everything about everything? No way. And even if someone says, I know everything, in fact, I saw a person who wants to be a millionaire, he was absolutely on fire, right? He got up to $25,000, and it's like, man, you know everything. Like, no, he said, no, I know everything. That is until the next answer he got wrong. In other words, we only know everything in respect to our knowledge, but we still do not know everything, understand? Now, why do we not know everything? Because of Avarana Shakti. That's why the person is born ignorant, because they're under the influence of Maya's Avarana Shakti. Therefore, what becomes a problem for the Jiva, which is Avarana Shakti, is actually a glory for Ishwara. Now, why is Maya a glory for Ishwara? What's the first attribute of Maya? Sarva Jnanam, all knowledge. So Ishwara's glory is Maya because Maya gives all knowledge access to Ishwara. Whereas when Maya is operating and creating this world, because of its Avarana Shakti, us Jivas are under the influence of ignorance. And that ignorance does not touch Ishwara. Now, let's get back to the question. Remember what the Jiva is, under the influence of Avarana Shakti. So does that not make Krishna also under the influence of Avarana Shakti? Right? Because we said anything that is created, all the Jivas, all the body-mind complexes have Avarana Shakti, which means they cannot know everything, and yet Krishna is saying what? I know everything. So this is the difference when an avatara comes in. The difference between an avatara and a jnani is an avatara is born out of Ishwara's Maya Upadhi and not Jiva's Avidya Upadhi. Why is a Jiva born? Because of ignorance. Why is an avatara born? According to Ishwara's will. Now, do we say that, remember what we said about Ishwara? Not under the influence of Avarana Shakti? So whatever is born by the will of Ishwara, in that case is what we call an avatara. The one who has access to all knowledge for the sake of restoring, in this case, Dharma back on earth. Whereas a jnani or a maharishi, they were born ignorant and they had to then remove their ignorance. But they still, even after removing their ignorance, they still are ignorant of mithya details, whereas a Krishna is not ignorant of mithya details. Now your next question is going to be, how do you prove this? How do you prove that Krishna is an avatara who has access to all knowledge and a maharishi doesn't? Everything that Krishna is saying cannot be, first of all, known through any means of knowledge. In fact, several thousands of years later, we're still using this knowledge spoken by Krishna. In fact, Krishna is just speaking from the Upanishads, but the Upanishads is Ishwara's knowledge. So wherever Krishna is speaking, he's speaking Upanishads. And Upanishads is the very knowledge which restores our inherent nature back to its glory, which is I am the self. In other words, how is Krishna an avatara? How does he know everything? Because he's saying things that there is no way that a normal person can know. He's telling us things that even today we cannot know. Okay, because whatever Krishna is saying comes from the Upanishads. And the Upanishads are a beginningless text which through their assimilation leads to liberation. So in other words, today we're still using what? Krishna's knowledge to free ourselves from samsara.
Was Vyasa a jnani or an avatar?
Does anyone know whether Vyasa is an avatara?
Vyasa is a sage.
Through him came this knowledge. So a sage is an instrument for Ishwara's knowledge. Yeah. Bhagavan is going to describe himself as the one who is causeless. That means nothing caused Bhagavan. Yo mamajam anadim cha veti lokamaheshwaram asamudha samartyeshu sarvapapaih pramuchyate.
The one who knows me is unborn, not an effect, beginningless, not a cause, and the limitless Lord of the world. He among the mortals, being no longer deluded, is released from all papas.
Because I am the cause of everything, I am not caused. To be the cause of everything, you can't be caused by something else. In other words, I am the ultimate uncaused caused. Nothing caused me. For that reason, because nothing caused me, I am unborn. Because whatever is caused is what? It's born. A baby is caused by what? But the mother. Therefore, the baby is caused. So Ishwara is the final parent. There's no parent before Ishwara. That's what it's saying. And I am Anadi, Anadim. I am beginningless. In other words, I never started. When I say I, I'm talking about you. Because remember, the truth of this universe is one, Brahman. So you never started. I am not caused by anything, therefore I am not an effect of anything. And this world is an effect of me. Because this world comes out of, or is a product of, nimitta karanam and upadana karanam. I am not influenced, or I am free of the three states. I'm free of the waking state, I am free of the dream state, I am free of the deep sleep. I am free of all three states. I am free of the three worlds. I am free of the causal world, free of the subtle world. I'm free of the physical world. I am the adhisthana of the three worlds and the three states. Adhisthana means substratum. I am that in whose presence the three states arise, are sustained, and are dissolved into. My name is Turiya. Turiya means the fourth. We're not talking about the fourth state, we're just talking about in respect to the three, there is a fourth principle, which is that which pervades the three. Asammudha, who is free from delusion. That means who is the one that is liberated? The one who recognizes that Bhagavan is the truth of everything. That means there's nothing that a person can think that is excluded out of this statement. If you say, what about that included? Right. So what does a liberated person do? Understands that Bhagavan is the truth of everything. Okay. Now what does an ignorant person do? How do they think? They turn omnipresent satyam into individual mithya nama rupa, into individual forms. In other words, I take omnipresence and I assign it to every single form in this world. For example, I am belongs to what? In reality belongs to paraprakriti, consciousness. I am, and then tall. Tall is what? Mithya. So now the person thinks, well, I am tall. This is the reality of who I am. My identity is tallness. In other words, the person then assigns different mithya nama rupa onto thyself, thus I become that. Now what kind of results does this have in real life? When we constantly attribute satyam to everything, it makes us put everything into a big deal. That's how the world is, isn't it? Everything's a big deal. The glass breaks, fuss. Right? One person horns, I get angry. Huh? One little quarreling, my whole world is now about feeling contracted. Right? So everything has a reality, and then we take a lot of account into individual aspects. Why? Because I have turned every single mithya detail into satyam. Saha martyeshu asammudhaha. The jnani is not considered any longer a mortal despite being amidst mortals. So suppose Lloyd is a jnani. We don't know if it doesn't really matter. But just hypothetically speaking. And then Kelsey, she thinks he's a normal person. Well, he is a normal person, but from the Vyavaharika standpoint. But the understanding that Lloyd has that I'm not this mortal body, Kelsey is never going to discover that. Nobody's ever going to know that. So from her standpoint, Lloyd is mortal. But from the truth of Lloyd is Brahman. And Brahman is Anadi, beginningless, Anantam, infinite, Nirguna, without attributes. So what is there to die? If you don't have any attributes, there's no death. So nobody's ever going to know that what Lloyd truly has understood. Okay, now why does a jnani, why is he immortal? A little bit more details. It says, Sarva papaihi. In other words, I'm free from all papa. Why am I free from all demerits, from all sins that I have done in my life? Take account that word I. Why am I, what does the I refer to? Satyam, which is the truth of this whole world. Why am I free of all the papa and the punya? So in other words, the I has shifted from the karta, what's the karta? The body, mind, intellect, to akarta. And what's akarta? Satchid Ananda, Brahman. Because awareness cannot do. Doing only arises in the presence of awareness, but awareness itself is not an actor. It doesn't do anything. In fact, the only way I can validate do-ness or my actions is because of the one unmoving, the one ever-present, one unchanging awareness. Just like you can only tell about all of the changes in the train is because of the static environment. That's how you can say everything's moving. In reference to something that is not moving, the train is moving. In reference to the non-moving sun, the earth is moving. Therefore, in reference to the unmoving, unchanging, all-pervading consciousness, which is your nature, I constantly validate all of my actions. He or she is free from all papa karma. There are two types of papa karma. Now we're going to a little bit more practical. I told you a lot of technical details, now practical. The first papa karma, what is papa karma? Anything that is uncool, anything that is not nice, anything that hurts, anything that is opposite of meritorious. The first one is deliberate. I'm intentionally going to make someone slip by putting a banana peel so that I can win over the girlfriend and not him, for example. So this is massive papa.
Too many Hindu films.
The thing is, a banana peel is actually not slippery. The second is, it is out of uncaring, neglect. This is the most common one. It's indifference or lack of care. For example, an employer tells an employee, hey, clean the floor, right? And the employee cleans the floor. And also dry the floor because the customers may slip. And the employee does a sloppy job. And then someone slips on the floor. Now, the employee intentionally wished that? No. That happened why? Because the employee is lazy. The employee is sloppy. So the employee hasn't done a proper job. So this is papa number 2. It's not intentional. It is careless. It is unintentional. However, it is still because of lack of attention. Lack of my full investment into what needs to be attended. So then the employer says, someone could have died. And the employee says, oh, it's my mistake, I'm sorry. The truth is, we don't care that it's your mistake because as a human being, one is expected to be alert every moment. That's the privilege of a human being. In other words, something like that is not an excuse. Otherwise, we can just say, oh, lies, I'm sorry, it's my mistake. So we need to be completely alert and aware as much as we can in every single situation. Because saying sorry, the fact is someone fell. But I could have prevented that by putting my full focus and doing the job properly. Therefore, there is no excuse, number one, to perform unintentional papa karma because I was busy, or because I didn't have time, or because I had better things to do. No, the point is everything is Ishwara, remember? So therefore there is no better situation than the situation I am expected to attend, even if it's something as ordinary as sweeping a floor. The fact is, Ishwara forms called jivas are walking on that floor. If they get hurt, it is definitely my fault. Therefore, I surely deserve papa karma in that case. So as a Vedantin, the second type will happen once in a while, but we need to start being very mindful about our actions, because there's no excuse to slack off and say, well, I'm just tired. Next week, we will get into more practice. So now I've given you a lot of technical foundation, and next week we start about what are some of the specific glories that all human beings share. Because remember, this chapter is about appreciating, contemplating, recognizing Bhagavan in everything. Now that's a very general statement when I say that. So the next verse, 4 and 5, will tell us specifically how these glories are working in and through this instrument of the body-mind. So you can start to actually appreciate and go, wow, this is amazing. Without this, I would have never gotten to where I am today. The whole point is to be a full, open, loving, cheerful bhakta, because that's the essence of living this life. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.